So we're calling this Innovate to Educate, exploring AI applications for instruction and productivity. We are hopefully going to provide you with some valuable insights and maybe to whet your appetite just a little bit for some of the tools and some of the applications that are available. Many of them are available for free. Others are integrated perhaps into some applications you are already using or are available to you through your learning organization, particularly if you are affiliated with Regent University as a student or a faculty or staff member. So I am Don Finn. I am associate professor here in the School of Education. I am just completing my 18th year of service to the university and the School of Education. I actually came from Virginia Commonwealth University, where I earned my PhD in adult education and organizational learning. I also have a master's of education, or actually a master of science with a focus on curriculum and instruction and adult education. I have actually been an adult education teacher for just over 31 years and have worked at various levels of adults, GED, adult high school, through professional development, currently working, of course, in the university setting with adult learners. And I also have served for many years now, been affiliated with the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, or COABE, which is the largest adult education organization in the country, about 55,000 members strong. I was president of the organization in 2019 through 2021. And I still work with COABE, serving as the COABE Journal editor. So I have a background in adult education that's pretty strong, but also in or rather with educational technology as well. Going back really to my time as a middle and high school social studies teacher back in the last century. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Dr. Fehl-Seward.
Thanks, Don. So my background is all education. I started the early days as in kindergarten and first grade. I've always been a career educator. I've moved through the K-12 environment, both from online learning and an administrator. I currently today work full-time as the Vice President of Digital Learning at WHRO, which is owned by 21 school divisions in the Hampton Roads region. So I get to stay closely tied to the K-12 field with educators, administrators, technology specialists, and it's a privilege. But I also get to work with Regent here as an adjunct faculty member. You may have seen me with Katie actually doing a series of AI for All video series. And so it's been a lot of fun to share out some information about AI. So my background, besides always teaching and coming from the classroom and administration in K-12, is also my master's of Virginia Tech, curriculum and instructional design. And of course, my PhD is from Regent. And I was one of the last few, I believe, Dean Gressig as in the online learning degree. So yeah. All right, so I think we're ready.
Okay, so what's the goal today? Well, what we want to do is to explore ways that AI and GAI can enrich teaching, your methodologies, and also boosting productivity. But this is not intended to be a comprehensive presentation in the remaining 25 minutes that we have, but rather we really want to provide you with more of a 30,000-foot perspective to give you an overview of maybe the different types of tools, the different families of tools, and even we're going to highlight some specific applications that you can use in order to help with enriching teaching and also in your productivity. So I'm going to pass it over to Mitzi to talk a little bit about the difference between AI and GAI.
Great, thanks. So there are a lot of definitions floating around about what is AI, what is GAI refers to generative AI. So I put the definition that goes back to really the National Artificial Intelligence Act of 2020. It's a pretty solid definition. There are older ones absolutely available, but you'll notice that it really refers to the machine-based system that can, for a given set of human-defined objectives, it can make those predictions and recommendations and decisions influencing and real or virtual environments. That's kind of the basis of artificial intelligence. But generative AI or GAI is a component of AI. It uses AI to use algorithms to create media elements. You can, of course, fake, but we're going to look at the real things it can do for us today. Things like videos and text and images and graphics. This is a field that is moving rapidly. Recently, I just read, I think Ethan Mollick, you might be familiar with him. He's out of Wharton. He's a professor, associate professor, and he's a great one to follow for AI. But he recently wrote that we're seeing the changes that are happening with these large language models, like every 5 doubling in its capacity and its reach and the changes that are coming. It's probably the fastest change in technology we've seen, even back over looking at history. So no, even what we say today, tomorrow could be completely different. So that makes this a really interesting field today. All right, this is still me. Okay, so we divided up into some methodology apps and some productivity apps. So we're not going to be able, as Don said, we're not going to be able to hit all of these today, but we're going to highlight a few of these. And encourage you, we'll provide you all the links at the end to do some exploring on your own as well. So there might be a few that intrigue you. So the first thing I'm on the next slide is really a page about other chatbots. You know, if we had time, I'd poll you and what do you know about ChatGPT? We don't have that time in the next 23 minutes. So ChatGPT, of course, you probably are familiar with, you've heard about it, but on the screen behind the links, you'll see there's a couple. There we go. There's a couple of I gave you the hard task today, controlling the technology. There's a couple of chatbots here that I want to just mention that you might not know outside of ChatGPT, whether you use the free version, whether you're paying the $20 a month for ChatGPT 4. A lot of people are somewhere on that spectrum. We're expecting ChatGPT 5 to be out here maybe as early as this summer. But Claude is a chatbot that you may or may not have used. Gemini, Copilot. And so I want to talk for just 2 seconds here about what the difference is. I think Claude or Claude 3 is a great chatbot to use, especially for longer text, longer information. You can even upload full books into Claude and really get information back to you if you give it a good prompt. So again, these all have some strengths that are unique and some weaknesses that are unique. Gemini as well, you'll see that is the Google version of a chat, and you'll see it built in if you use like Google for a search engine. You'll see it embedded into Google products like your Google Slides, your Google Docs, all of those products are from Google. And so Gemini is what they've created. Copilot is Microsoft's version. Copilot, it also interacts with all your Microsoft products. You might even see sometimes if you use Microsoft Office 365, it might give you ideas of things to write. You can use them. It's coming from Copilot. It's also embedded into Bing, which is into Microsoft browser Edge. So you see these all embedded into different products. ChatGPT and Claude, most of the time we go to those directly, where the others are more embedded into products that you may or may not realize are running engines underneath what you have or what you're asking. I often will use the same prompt. If I use it in ChatGPT, I'll go to Claude and put it in. I'll try it in Gemini and see what the different answers or different responses I get from the exact same prompt. So it's always good. You can just see those results and what yields for you something that's usable. And sometimes it might be a piece from one and a piece from the other, and how you then come in and use your brain to make it work for what you need. So that was just a quick thing about chatbots. Let's move on then really quickly. This is in methodology. So I want to show you Research Rabbit. You may know about Research Rabbit, you may not. I'm going to jump in and show you, hopefully everything technology is going to work great. I'm going to show you a live quick piece about Research Rabbit in case you don't know it. So you should see my screen now. And what we have here is I've already logged into Research Rabbit. And right now what you see some articles. I did some searches on artificial intelligence just to see what would come up. Now I want to show you what happens if I click on one, and then I'll show you how you can start again. So I'm in a collection that I've named artificial intelligence. I can click on one of the articles. So I'll click on this, and you'll notice now moving across the screen, I can look at this. I could download the PDF if this looks like an article that's something I want to continue and read about. I can also, though, this is the beauty of Research Rabbit, is I could click, right now there's 828 similar papers to the one that I've selected. It's going to do an algorithm on 50 at a time. So you'll see now in the middle, there are green and blue dots. The blue dots are other articles. Let me move all my tools here. I'll zoom in a little bit here. Right now, I have it selected as the author's name, and I could go in and look at those, and I'll show you that in a moment. I've gone in a little too far. The green dots show that you see. Remember over here on the far left, I had several articles. The green dots represent articles that I've already tagged as something I might choose to look at and learn from. I can go further. I could go into a blue dot because I haven't tagged that one because it's blue, not green. I could go in here and keep looking. I could download the folder, files. Some of them will allow me to look at maybe an abstract. I can look at all the citations at this one paper right here. If I click on this, there's not a PDF available, but I could click on the title. It would take me out to the actual DOI or the actual article where I can get a hold of it. I can look at all the citations that were used in that one article if I want. So I can export, my references. This is a fabulous research engine. We have things like Google Scholar, and we use Mendeley or Zotero. Everybody has their own. This is a newer one that's using AI and using an algorithm to predict off of that. If you go back off of that very first article, I'm going to close everything off of that very first article, then it builds this network for me, and I can keep digging deeper. If you wanted to start from the very beginning, I'll add a new collection. I'll quickly, for time, I'll put in, let's say, adult learning, because I like things organized. Anybody that knows me, those details matter. So I might come in here, and now I want to add papers on a completely new topic. And so I'll just put in adult learning quickly, and I'll do a search. So this is how you can start it. And you'll see initially they're all types of papers that will vary in the time frame. They could go back very far because adult learning is not new. It could go back. I could look at more recent articles. So I'm going to just click on several. I'm not even right now really looking. I'm adding some. Yep.
Mitzi, just a second.
Yes.
I don't think that everybody can see the dynamic screen going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to have you share yours individually. And
okay.
If we need to edit the final product as well. So let me stop the share.
Okay.
Go ahead and have you share your screen, which I think I can see now.
Can you see my screen?
Yep. So could you actually do a quick go back to the beginning?
Yep. I'm going to delete this. I'll delete here, and I'm going to come in fresh. You ready? I'm going to start a new collection. I want to do adult learning today. So I'm going to call this adult learning because I like to keep things nice and tidy. So I'm in right now my artificial intelligence collection where I've done some search. I'm going to start brand new so you can see how that works. So my adult learning in this panel, y'all can see an empty panel, right? It says add papers. You see that? Okay. So if I add papers, if I knew a title, I could put it in exact. I'm just going to put in a topic right now for time, and I'm going to search. So you should be seeing dynamically what's happening is it is yielding back a lot of different articles for me on my subject matter. And I'm just going to pick a couple that I could add to my collection. I could spend more time being selective, but for right now, this is plenty. So I'm going to add those. And if I close my window, now you'll see in the adult learning panel, you should see the list of my articles over here that I selected. If I wanted to click on one of those, let's see, I can see that this paper doesn't have a PDF version, but I want to see more like it. The next panel allows me to select here similar works. So I'm going to click on similar works. There's 244 more. This is where the algorithm builds those blue and green dots. So again, the green are anything that I already have in my collection. The blue are things that I don't have. And I can continue the search to go and keep looking and finding more articles, because this will allow me to extend this every time I choose an article. It'll sort these by earlier works. It'll be 50 at a time. Earlier works, later works, and similar works. That's the way that this will work. So I could choose an article and it'll keep digging me through. I can keep, now there's 1,300, over 1,300, 1,380, articles that are around this topic. And so you can see dynamically that AI is building these algorithms and helping me dig in to find research on whatever topics you want. So you may have seen this before. There's a lot of things. We could spend the whole time just going into research rabbits. So I will stop sharing though, so we can return and quickly highlight others. But I want this to just whet your appetite to go in and play with it and see what you can do.
So one of the things too, as we transition back to the, if you pause your screen.
Yep.
As we transition back to the presentation, one of the things that we want to emphasize is that the inputs are only as good as the outputs. Now, that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later, or the output is only as good as the input. So Research Rabbit is a wonderful tool, but keep in mind that it may not have access to the latest and greatest peer-reviewed articles and so on. And so this is where the critical thinking and being a discriminating consumer, if you will, comes into play. That you really have to check on the value, the legitimacy, if you will, the currency of those resources as they come up. All right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And those mostly, it is a scholarly based tool for research, like Google Scholar is not, but actually Research Rabbit says in all of their information that they are. So you're right. You got to value which tools really give you the most bang for your buck. That's what I feel like. So it is a good one to start exploring if you haven't. Almanac is another one. I'm not going to right now go into it, but it does a lot of things. So looking at the screen capture on the side, you can see that there is a kind of a navigation window on the left. So from writing lessons to courses to resources to tools. This is just a screenshot to show some of the tools that are available. It allows you to scroll down and make a ton of them. And there is a pro version you can pay for, but there's so much that's free in there that you don't have to. It does help you, and even at a higher education level, not just K-12. And that is a beauty of this, is that I could say, hey, I want to write a lesson and here's my objectives. Or I can say, I want to write a lesson about ChatGPT. You create some lesson objectives. You create with the desired results. There's a button there that says generate using AI, and you click it, it will. And then you have the ability of a great base. It'll allow you to then make supporting resources, checklists, thoughtful, critical thinking questions. Maybe you want to use for discussion boards. It's just a tool that you could put in to help you in your instruction and in your learning activities that you provide for students at all kinds of levels. It can align to, if you were in K-12, it can align to standards of learning. At higher ed, you can put in what are those main objectives, and it absolutely will put out according to the level that you want it to. So if we have time at the end, we might do a quick little demo on that, but we've got a lot planned. So I'm just mentioning this because you might have seen, like I had Magic School on a lot of K-12, we know about Magic School, but not everybody knows about the beauty of what Almanac gives you. So so just is another tool to put in that, your pouch and explore and start playing with. So we're going to switch over now to some productivity tools.
So as you can see here, there are many different types of productivity tools, and probably many that you have heard of before, probably some that you use. And so because of time, we want to go ahead and just show you some different capabilities of some that are more familiar to you. But being productive, whether it is scholarly productivity, working toward a dissertation, working on assignments, or generating assignments and so on, there are many different tools that can be used. And so what I did is I went ahead and used Gemini, and I said, hey, Gemini, tell me a little bit about Grammarly. And so it actually pulled up some information about Grammarly, and you can see from the screenshot here that in Gemini, and as Mitzi talked about earlier, because of the integrative nature, because it draws from Google and so on, you can see the highlighted text here. It shows that Grammarly is a tool that uses artificial intelligence to help people improve their writing, and you'll see a drop-down arrow. When you click on the drop-down arrow, it will provide you with that resource, where it came from. It checks for errors. It improves clarity and style. It catches plagiarism. It is context aware, so help you to understand the context of your writing. So Grammarly is a very familiar tool, I think, to many. And for example, here is a screenshot of this is a demonstration email. Okay, this is not necessarily how I write, but I made sure that I made a pretty messy demonstration email for you to show how Grammarly picks up on various mistakes and so on. You can see in the panel on the side that it is providing, it's highlighting, and it's providing me different recommendations and so on that I may or may not consider. For me, I frequently have used, please get in contact with me, where it can just be, please email me or reach out to me or whatever, something very simple. So it will highlight those types of things. And when you click on it, this is a static page. This is a screenshot. But when you click on it, it will give you some opportunities, some examples of ways that you can change it. But notice here at the bottom, I have one of my favorite verses, Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. Now, what's interesting is that this is from the English Standard Version, and notice it's flagged right here that I should remove the comma from believing, and I should make spirit lowercase s. Well, we know that that's not proper. So it's giving recommendations based upon its artificial intelligence, but me with my organic intelligence or God-given intelligence or developing intelligence, whatever we want to call it, I can make the judgment call as to whether or not to accept those. And so you should now be seeing a draft document on the screen there. This is a draft of a piece that Dr. Grooms and I are working towards for publication about a phenomenological study that we are conducting. And so as I flip through this, you're seeing that there are different words and terms that are flagged. And so I can go through and I can hit each one of these individually, or I could do one of two things. When that menu comes up, I can click on See More in Grammarly, and what will happen is a sidebar will come up. So you see the sidebar here, and at the top, it shows you the red underlines are for correctness, clarity are blue, engagement are green, and delivery are purple. And going through here, I really messed up this document in many ways in order to show different mistakes and so on. So as you highlight those mistakes, it will give you, and I can click on successfully, okay? It says, well, you need to eliminate that. But here's the problem. This is a direct quote. If I highlight the text, you can see this is a direct quote from Studebaker and Curtis. And so I don't want Studebaker and Curtis. I don't want to disrespect them, so I'm not going to change their quote, okay? But you can see, again, different errors, you know, saying put a comma in there and so on. Down here, it's saying this is a sentence fragment. So the beauty of Grammarly, there are two things. First of all, you can integrate it into Microsoft Office, which may or may not be static. You may have Office 365, which is web-based, but it also crosses platforms. That's the importance of Grammarly. This is a Google Doc, so I'm using this in Google Docs, and it is actually it's analyzing my writing and so on in that platform. So to me, I find it to be very, very helpful. Zoom is another tool that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. You may have an institutional license for Zoom, but Zoom actually has AI integrated into it. And what's neat about this is that although these are controlled by a central IT office, and Regent's IT office, for example, has some limitations on some of the tools, but not on the AI tools. And so if you log into your Zoom account and click on settings, you can click on AI Companion. And one of the neat things that this provides you with is a full summary text of in an email sent to users, or you can just share the summary with yourself. And so here is a summary of a very brief demonstration Zoom meeting that I had with myself, but I pretended that my colleague Mitzi was in there. Strangely enough, it took Mitzi for Mitch. It actually renamed her Mitch. But anyway, still, it gave it. Look, you can see here, it gives a very quick recap of the meeting. It also talks about next steps that were discussed. And so I deliberately said, okay, so first of all, we need to get better screenshots. Second of all, we need to demonstrate tools in action and so on. And then it just provided a general summary of the meeting. This was a very short meeting, but it still is a very neat tool that you can use. And again, if you have a Regent account, you can actually do this, and you may be able to do it in other institutional affiliated accounts. So real briefly, Mitzi, I'm going to hand it back to you to talk about SlidesGo.
Great. So because we're coming off of Zoom, frequently we're in a scenario like this. We might be sharing or meeting with students, and maybe you want to, or you're at a conference, or you're presenting in a webinar. A lot of people know about Canva. Canva is a great tool, and it has an awesome AI Magic Studio, and we could again spend an hour playing with all of that. But not as many people know about SlidesGo, and this is really designed as a way for presentations where Canva has a ton of different tools, AI to write or make social media posts. Like there's a lot, infographics. This is really about creating presentations. And so you can first go to SlidesGo, and you just want a template they've already got. You could say education, or I'm going to pick on adult learning again, and it will give you a whole list of templates you can use. You can download. You can take them straight into a Google product, into a Google Slides. They'll download for a PowerPoint. 100% customizable for you. All the colors, all the icons, again, and you have the ability to control it. So you've got that just as a basic search engine. But Don, if you'll go to the next slide real quick, you can also allow AI to create your presentation for you. So through SlidesGo. So if you knew, again, I might pick my theme, let them do it. And I could say, and here's the main points I need this to focus on. It will give you that whole leg up and I could have generate presentation if this was live. It would create that for me. And then I come in and I make the changes. So don't have time to go through it, but it's a great, simple and easy. There is a paid version, but I never pay for it. I use the free version all the time. So it's a great tool. We wanted to close with a few tips really quickly. Don, you want to start?
So I alluded to this earlier, that you really need to recognize the limitations of AI. That AI is, again, the output is only as good as the input. So if you conduct a query on a topic, look at what the output is. Look at the sources that are being cited for the output. Some of them may be very dated. Some of them may be non-authoritative. They may be from a personal web page and not a university or authoritative web page. One of the other reasons too why AI has been in the news really predominantly since last fall has to do with ethical issues, has to do with plagiarism and cheating. And, AI, sure, it can open that door, and we need to be aware of that. But there are some ethical issues there, particularly if you're having AI, quote unquote, do everything for you. So in either way, you definitely need to be a discerning consumer. You need to be able to look at the sources of information. You need to look at the legitimacy of the information. And really, this causes you, hopefully you will see, that this causes you to be a little bit more of a discerning consumer, a critical thinker, that you really are thinking critically about what the output is and so on. But and when you're in an instructional setting, and I'll let Mitzi speak to the guidance in outlining acceptable uses. So you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So in working with students at all ages, whether they're an acceptable age of 13, 14, all the way up to adult learners, it's our responsibility, if we're the instructors, is to make sure we provide the guidance and we outline for them what are the acceptable uses, when is it okay to use it, and when are you wanting, or use it as a co-partner. How can you do that? Because it's not going away, it is here. And that kind of leads us up. I'll skip a bullet for a moment, is that we have such a rapidly changing technology, and we have to realize that it is here. It's not going away. So we have to figure out, how are we going to train people to work collaboratively, let's say in the future in a group, that maybe there's a member that's not a human, that is someone, or an item of, not someone, that is coming from AI, whatever that looks like people like to say a robot. But, there will be oftentimes that collaboration. There's a great book called Co-Intelligence, and looking at that mentality that says we are going to be in a world where not everybody's going to be our human interaction. So how do we figure that out, and how do we teach people to exist in that world? And I think probably one of my favorite tips is, remember, of course, all of these are tools, and that's what they are. They're tools, they're resources. But what I think some of the beauty is, it gives you the ability to free up valuable time in some of those mundane or really driven tasks, to then allow you to focus on the human connections and the human interaction. So maybe it can send out emails for me in a way that I've approved, I've looked at, I've edited, but it can take care of that with a lot of tools. And it gives me more time, let's say, to meet with my students one-on-one, or spend time with my family, or whatever it is. But I think that's the beauty, that we might want to try to grab a hold of where it can help us as a tool. But make sure you're engaging. We did put the links together here, and Don's been putting the links along the way as well. So we can also stick all of them in the chat if we want.
Yeah, so we just wanted to give you some ideas here. We know that AI tools are continuously developing and are changing. I don't know how many times I've gone into a document that I've had open, for example, a Google Doc, and I get in there and I see a little box in the corner that says Grammarly has been updated. Click here. It's amazing how much it's updated. And so we just wanted to really whet your appetite with that. Now, we have run over just a little bit, but do we have any quick questions that we might be able to address from anybody? If so, please feel free to just unmute your mic and just ask the question.
Yeah, hey, Don, this is Kurt. I've been copying and pasting a few of those links, but is there a way to get us a copy of all those from Adobe Express all the way down to Zoom?
Yes, absolutely. We can do a couple of things. As Mitzi said, we can drop them all. In fact, I'll drop them all into the chat right now. But we can also make those available. Maybe we can send them to Ashley for distribution, perhaps, when the recording link goes out.
Yeah, that works. In the chat, it doesn't allow you to cut and paste.
Right.
You can click on it, but that'd be great if you can get it to Ashley and we can disseminate it there.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Sure. Any other questions? Well, let me close by saying we really appreciate your time and attention to this. We know that this is a high interest field. We are available if you have any questions for us. You know, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to us through the School of Education website. If you're part of the Region community, you can find our email addresses pretty quickly. But we thank you for your time and your attention during the webinar, and we hope that you have a great day and that you have a great time exploring new AI tools. So thanks, everybody. Take care, and God bless.
Bye.
That's it, Don. Thank you. Take care.